Hello and welcome to our presentation about VR. First of all, I'd like to thank Jack for starting us off by covering the costs and accessibilities of VR. Now, my slides will be covering the areas and uses of virtual reality. I'll be going through many different parts, all in detail. If you have any questions, please hold them till the end of the presentation or when I stop talking. I will start by going through the usage and legal issues first that can happen with virtual reality. Right, before we get into the next slide, I would like to see a raise of hands of who has used virtual reality in the past or recently. If you haven't, that's okay, neither have I. Right, now then, moving on to the usage and legal issues around VR. Health and safety is one of them. The next one is data protection, and the final one, last but not least, is security. I'm going to start with health and safety first, then I'll go through data protection, then security. The first thing that needs to be considered is health and safety while using this technology, as improper use could result in harm to yourself, to someone else, to damage to any property around you, damage to personal belongings, things like that. It is important that when using a virtual reality headset that you know of any of the side effects that can occur after using the device or while using it. Some people may experience side effects, some won't. Some might suffer from really extreme side effects. Some it could be just feeling sick after using it, or just some people don't actually get any side effects after using it anyway. So when you use this device, when you use a VR headset, it is important to make anyone aware that you are using a headset. Because if someone doesn't know you're using a headset and they walk in front of you and you whack them one or you hit them, then that means they haven't been told that there is someone using the headset and should avoid that area where they're playing. This is caused by restriction of vision because there is no outside view on the headset. All the user can see is what's being portrayed or shown on the display inside of the headset. Now, the safety part of the health and safety of virtual reality is making sure that you aren't doing anything silly with it, you're not abusing it, things like that. That is why they always add health and safety regulations to any product that a consumer uses. Now, the next one we'll be talking about is data protection and how that can affect us. Right, now we're going to talk about data protection and how it can affect us. So everyone in this room would have heard of data protection, but with VR it's more important. Because of the data that will be stored on a VR headset, this is known as sensitive data, so this could be anywhere from anything up to your age, so your date of birth, your email address. If it has its own built-in app store, it's going to need your bank details, address, and things like that. And this is where a lot of your personal data and information will also be joined with the organisational data that produces and manufactures the VR headset. So it's down to them and slightly yourself to make sure that your data is secure. And always look out if something says optional next to it, you don't have to put it. So if it doesn't want your age, you don't have to put it. So always keep an eye out on what data you're giving people or manufacturers. Okay, moving on to security. One of my favourite parts. Security is important because any device that connects to the internet has access to a WAN or a LAN. So now we're moving on to different apps that use virtual reality. Now, as you can see, I've chosen 4: Netflix, YouTube, Google Earth and Steam. Steam technically is a gaming platform. Well, Steam is a gaming platform, but you can use VR with it to play VR games, which look absolutely amazing when you're watching someone play them, because the quality of it is just outstanding. Now moving on to Google Earth. This would, from what I believe, can require a smartphone enabled VR for VR and a desktop. I think mainly best experiences with a desktop because you can move around. With Google Earth, it's part of Google, obviously. Now, you could travel around the world and pick places you'd like to go. So this could tie in with education as well, because educators could use Google Earth using VR to see where students could go to different countries around the globe on Google Maps and see what it looks like and see how different it is to the UK. Explore different countries, travelling to different cities, things like that. Now moving on to Netflix. Netflix uses VR, but not very much from my experience of Netflix. I have tried to do a bit more research into it, but there aren't many films that use VR. I know that there's a scene where you can sit and watch Netflix on a TV and experience it that way. But there are a few films that do use VR, that accept VR. Netflix in VR looks amazing. And I must admit, sound amazing because I've witnessed my friend's VR headset playing Netflix, and it's like you're actually sat in the cinema compared to your everyday sound bars and surround sound systems. YouTube does the same. It depends on if the creator that made the YouTube videos have used VR to produce the content that they are recording. Now, not many people do, because VR headsets and VR technology is extortionately expensive now. This is since the pandemic, everything's gone up in price. but we're starting to see a reduction in that. Now we're moving on to different situations and different things that can use VR. With this technology as well, if you want to use, say for example, Netflix, you will need to make sure you download the app from the manufacturer's website store, so that it's a legit app for that product. This will also give the user the ability to watch and experience content more deeply. But with the use of having to download things to the VR headset, you must be careful on where you're getting the content from. Always make sure it is a trusted location from the manufacturer. Don't just skimp around the corners and download it from dodgy websites or places that don't look too safe. Always make sure you are downloading from the correct stores. This keeps your personal data secure, and in fact maybe even your home network or your network safe from intruders. Okay, so now we are going to be talking about the areas that use virtual reality. As you can see, there are 6: healthcare, entertainment, education, game development, space and military, and architecture. We're going to start with healthcare. Now, VR has been used in the healthcare industry for a while, and there are 4 main areas I found that use it. Number 1 is surgery, and surgeons use it. The second one is mental health. The third one is PTSD relief, and number 4 is care homes. Now, I'm going to start with surgery. Now, surgeons have been using this technology for a while, for a long time. It allows them to see using cameras and instruments when performing a type of surgery. This aids them into seeing what is going on, say, in the heart when they insert a camera in. This allows them to see what's functioning, what's not functioning, if there's a blockage, if there's been surgery performed before, or it can be used for routine checkups. Now, when VR is used for surgery, it is used to guide the surgeon on where, let's say, a blockage of the heart is. I'm not good at this stuff, so I don't know any of the terminology in surgery, but I'm going to try my best. So say if someone needs a heart bypass, they could use the VR with a camera that goes inside the heart to see what's gone wrong. This can also allow the surgeon to see where he needs to make incisions so that the patient can live. This will also allow them to make sure that nothing else has been damaged during the surgery, how much improvement, if there is any, has been achieved. But it also comes down to making sure that there's not been any mistakes. Now, while the surgeon uses VR, the staff in the room around him will actually be able to see what he's looking at. He or she just gets a definitive view, i.e. actually looking like they're in there. So that's how surgeons use it. Now then, moving on to mental health. Now, mental health is a big part of anyone, really. I've helped my friend go through it. But VR can help someone right back to any other war that we've had. Not many people accept that they have PTSD. A lot of them will just say they're fine, but they're not. They suffer in silence, which they shouldn't. There should be help out there for them. Now, the way VR works with PTSD sufferers and patients is it can take their mind away from that traumatic experience, so they could play games. Playing games can help because it occupies the mind. Depending on the game, it can help as well. It can also be used in PTSD relief. VR can really help with it, because it takes their mind away from that the situation that caused the traumatic experience. It keeps their mind busy, but it keeps their mind occupied, so they're not thinking of that problem or issue or trigger in their mind. Now, moving on to care homes. Obviously, we're now starting to come out of a pandemic, and that has been really tough on care homes. I know. And the use of VR is allowing the clients of care homes the ability to experience new or experience old memories, like going to Paris, going up the Eiffel Tower, or going to a history museum or places like that, because that can then trigger memories in their minds, because the memories aren't lost, they're there. They are there. It can also help with dementia patients, because, as I was saying before, their memories are there. They just need a little bit of help with remembering them. Sometimes it can be a smell, it could be someone's deodorant, perfume, aftershave, even down to their fabric conditioner. But as well, doesn't have to be dementia patients that benefit from this. It can also be normal care home clients, as they can travel the world, go visit countries that they may not have been able to visit, and have fun using the equipment. The VR can really give someone the joy of climbing a mountain without leaving their beds or seats. So virtual reality in this area, especially healthcare, is amazing for what it can do, which is good. And if I'm correct, I think I read somewhere that more care homes are investing in virtual reality technology so that their clients can experience new things. Surgeons are trying out new surgeries using virtual reality headsets so that they can see more in depth of things that are happening in the body. Right, now then, moving on to entertainment. There are 3 types of things in the entertainment industry, and they are console gaming, PC gaming, and IMAX cinema. Now, we've all heard of PlayStation VR and Oculus in this room, haven't we? If you have, hands up. That's great. If not, that's okay. So, PlayStation just announced the PlayStation 5 VR headsets. Not going to be available yet until they can actually get more consoles out, from what I remember. But it's coming. This means players will be able to play their PS5 games that are virtual reality ready, or virtual reality only, be able to play them instead of having them sit there and not being played. This is great because I've personally seen what the PSVR is like, because I've watched a friend play it and it looks amazing. PC VR is along the same lines, but it's compatible with PCs. Not sure if it's compatible with PlayStation 5 because I've never tried. They're now starting to introduce virtual realities for home theatre systems. Now this is brilliant because this will allow you to experience a film in more in-depth, immersive, real-life action of a film, because it will trick your mind into thinking you're actually there, you're actually doing the actions on the screen. Now this bit also ties in with the cinemas. I don't know if anyone's heard, that's good. The IMAX and Odeon cinemas. Now, I will be talking about this a little bit further on in this set of slides, and we'll go from there on the cinemas. Now, moving on to education. Education is using virtual reality to enable students to have a more immersive feel of learning, with a hands-on approach, allowing the students to learn more and get a feel for how something was back in, I don't know, World War II, if there is one. What it was like to be an evacuee, or medieval times, or visiting different countries without leaving the classroom. It is a step forward in this industry, and I think it'll be amazing when it's released, or when it's more common in schools. Game development. Now, game development is also relying on VR because it's allowing game developers to see how their game, if it's a VR game they're working on, to see how that is being processed and how it will function, how it will run. Is there any glitches? Is there any nicks or clips that need fixing in the game? And also allow the players to experience a better gameplay of how the game should be played. Right. Now moving on to space and military. I've combined these two because of the fact that I won't be surprised if anyone didn't know of this, but VR has been around since the 1960s. Shocker, I know. The space industry have been using virtual reality to help train new astronauts, new technicians, scientists, when they're aboard the International Space Station. But before the International Space Station, the VR was mainly used for training the astronauts when they were firing up their shuttles. So before they took to fly the shuttle, they had to use a virtual model and be able to fly it. This is alongside what we have now with flight simulations, which I will talk about further later. The military have been using it since the 1960s. This is also helping them learn now, teaching soldiers, pilots, and drivers to do how they do their job effectively. NASA have been using it since the 1990s. So it's been around, virtual reality has been around longer than we thought. Way before we thought. Architecture. Now moving on to architecture. The architecture industry has been using VR for a while. It's being used for a more immersive and tactile feel to how, say, a brand new house is going to look and feel, what's going to be in the house, where things are going to be laid out. We're moving on to experiences available for virtual reality. And this is our final slide for me. So, as you can see, I have got 4 experiences that can be experienced in the uses of virtual reality. Well, the first one I'm going to start with is the RAF Flight and Ground Unit Training. The reason I'm starting at the bottom is because this is my passion. The RAF and Army and Navy are starting to use, or have been using VR for years. This has helped with training, missions, and teaching. All 3 military services are using VR technology to keep everyone safe. They are also using it for use of flying new aircraft, so that there's no human in it. For battle, war, if anything happens like that. This then coincides with flight training. I'll talk about that on flight simulations. Now, flight simulations are growing. The new Microsoft Flight Sim has enabled us to use virtual reality when we're flying an aircraft. This lets us feel that we are actually flying the aircraft itself rather than seeing it through a computer screen. This is also one of the ways situations. Now, these were the most common, well, the only things to come out of VR when we as consumers first had got wind of it. Now, when VR first came out, there weren't many games for it. There wasn't the infrastructure we have now. So back then, it would have been only available on PC, which meant that there was loads of wires connecting the headset, the headphones. The controllers would have been wireless, I think, so that the user can move around. One of the most common ones that there are was the shark cage. This allowed users to stand in a virtual cage with a shark swimming around them. I must admit they're brave, because I wouldn't do it. That would swim around them, have a nudge of the cage, and they would jolt back. People would react to that reaction from the shark. The other one is roller coasters. Now, as well with the pandemic, I read somewhere, I can't remember where it was now, but more people were using YouTube and their VR headsets to recreate them being on a roller coaster. Now, that would, on any scale, would look amazing, because it would actually look like, with the headset on, you're actually sat in the carriage speeding around a roller coaster. Very weird. But that one, I must admit, isn't for the faint-hearted. Now, moving on to the cinemas. Now, some of you may have heard this, some of you may not have, but two massive worldwide cinemas, also known as IMAX and the Odeon, went into an agreement in 2016, or made up a plan to produce virtual reality cinemas. It was successful. It gave visitors the ability to watch films and experience films in virtual reality, like the actor was actually seeing, they were actually seeing what the actor was seeing when he was doing that action. That, and it also gave a sense that you're actually sat watching him do it. That would have been that is a massive leap in technology if it was fully successful, which it was. But like everything, due to funds, towards the end of 2018, IMAX and Odeon had to pull out of this deal and demolish the use of virtual reality cinemas. This is due to the cost of everything to maintain, run, publish and produce all this technology and all the films and everything like that was costing way too much money. So sadly they had to eradicate that idea. That would have been excellent if it was fully successful, because I think I would have gone personally. Right, the next slide is all the references to where I got my information. Today in our presentation we have covered a range of different things about virtual reality and learnt new things about it too. Today we have covered security, health, uses and applications, costs and accessibility of virtual reality, the areas and usage, and finally, but last but not least, the different experiences that are available for virtual reality. Now, we hope you enjoyed our seminar, and if you have any questions or debates, please feel free to ask. Thank you.